The night the world froze began with a scream no one heard. In the heart of looming city, lights shimmered as always, dancing off billboard glass and skyscrapers with their neon pulse, but the air had a strange heaviness, a quiet that whispered of storms waiting to break. And somewhere inside that shimmering skyline, Yu Longmeng, the nation's golden boy, the actor whose smile had been a cinematic sun, was about to vanish from the fifth floor of the looming Pearl Hotel. It was supposed to be an ordinary night, or as ordinary as nights ever were for him. Fans had seen him just hours before, stepping out of a studio doorway, hair tousled and charm blazing. Reporters shouted his name, but he laughed, waving gently, that same poetic aura that made entire cities breathe deeper. But behind that smile, shadows had grown. Behind the curtains of fame, someone had been pulling strings. And at midnight, everything snapped. Witnesses later claimed they heard glass shatter, a sharp cry, a sudden thud, but no one knew the truth. No one knew if Yu Longmeng had fallen, been pushed, or been dragged into the abyss of his own unfinished story. All they knew was the silence that followed. A silence so heavy it felt like the nation itself had stopped breathing. His body was discovered conscious but broken, bruised but breathing, lying beneath the glow of the hotel's golden lamps. Paramedics rushed in, cameras flashed, and the news exploded like a bomb across the digital sky. Top actor Yu Longmeng severely injured, suspected fall from hotel. Fans cried in live streams. Social media trembled. The industry froze. But nothing, absolutely nothing, compared to what came next. A video surfaced without warning. A shadowy account, no name, no profile, just a black screen, dropped a clip titled only, "The Truth Behind the Fall." At first, no one believed it was real. Just another rumor, another fabricated tale in a world addicted to scandal. But the moment the video began to play, millions gasped in unison. There he was, Yu Longmeng, tied to a chair, bruised, exhausted, eyes wide with a terror that tore through every screen it touched. The room around him was dark, lit only by a flickering bulb above his bowed head. A figure in black circled him slowly, speaking words too low to understand, but the tone, that chilling calm, vibrated like a blade pressed against the spine of every viewer. The captions read, "Tell them what they want, Longmeng, or you won't leave this room alive." The camera shook. Longmeng struggled. The bulb swung like a pendulum marking the end of innocence. Fans screamed in comments. Media outlets scrambled to confirm authenticity. Authorities issued statements too polished to be comforting. And then the video cut to the most devastating moment. The moment that would be replayed, analyzed, slowed down, dissected by every citizen who dared to watch. Yu Longmeng dragging himself across the floor. Yu Longmeng reaching for a door. Yu Longmeng, the shadow behind him raising something metallic. Yu Longmeng stumbling backward, toward a window. Yu Longmeng disappearing into the night as glass shattered around him like falling stars. The video ended there. Millions cried. Millions shook. The world lost its breath again. But in that abyss of fear and fury, one person felt her heart tearing more than anyone else. Her name was Lin Shuyan, and their love had been a secret. She was a screenwriter, soft-spoken, radiant in that quiet way the world often overlooks. They had met on a rainy Wednesday 2 years ago, when fate slipped between them like a hand guiding two destinies to collide. He walked into the studio lobby, drenched, annoyed, exhausted. She was crouched on the floor, gathering pages that had fallen from her binder like scattered butterflies. When he bent to help her, their hands brushed, and something electric passed between them. Something undeniable. Something faded. Their relationship was a poem whispered in shadows, guarded behind closed doors, nurtured in secret cafes and midnight rooftops where only the stars dared witness their tenderness. He called her his anchor. She called him her storm. He said she steadied him. She said he set her soul on fire. And now, as she watched the leaked video with trembling hands, she knew something the world didn't. Yu Longmeng didn't fall. Yu Longmeng was running for his life. And whoever leaked the video wasn't trying to expose the truth, they were trying to send a warning. The nation demanded answers. Protests erupted. Fans camped outside the hospital, refusing to leave until transparency pierced the darkness. News anchors analyzed the angle of the fall, the bruises, the echoes in the audio. Hashtags flooded every corner of the digital sky. But the question that struck the loudest was the one no expert dared answer. Why him? Lin Shuyan knew. Because he loved her. And someone didn't want him to. 3 days after the fall, just as the world began to settle into a rhythm of heartbreak, another video appeared, but this one wasn't for the public. It was sent directly to Lin Shuyan's email. No subject. No explanation. Just a file named. You know what he chose. With trembling fingers she opened it. The same dark room. The same flickering bulb. But this time, Yulong Meng wasn't tied. He was kneeling, facing the camera, bruised but burning with defiance. A voice from the shadows said, "Choose her and you fall. Choose us and you live." Longming lifted his head, took a breath that shook the earth itself, and whispered, "I choose love." The screen went black. Lin Shuyan collapsed to her knees. Because in that single soft sentence, she understood the truth. He fell because he refused to betray her. He fell because love meant more to him than survival. He fell because to him, she was worth risking everything. Yulong Meng survived, barely. And as he lay in a hospital bed, unconscious but fighting, the world rose around him with a force that even shadows couldn't silence. Fans held vigils. Writers penned tributes. Directors vowed protection. Even strangers wrote messages of hope on candlelit streets. But the most powerful moment happened in the quiet of his hospital room. Lin Shuyan stepped inside, heart trembling but fierce, and took his hand. She leaned close, letting her forehead rest gently against his, and whispered, "You fell for me. So now I rise for you." Her vow became a spark, a movement, a reckoning. Investigations opened. Secrets shook loose. Agents, managers, hidden enemies, all dragged into the light. Because this time, the world wasn't backing down. Not when love had bled this deeply. Not when truth had fallen from the 5th floor and survived to tell the tale. And when Yulong Meng finally opened his eyes days later, blinking against the soft hospital light, the entire nation felt the moment like a sunrise. Not because of the tragedy, but because of the fire that still lived in him. A fire that whispered, "The truth is coming." And when it arrives, no shadow will be safe. No lie will stand. No heart will remain untouched. The story of Yulong Meng is far from over. In fact, it has only just begun. The leaked video refused to fade. It replayed itself across every screen in the nation like a ghost trapped in digital glass, haunting people even when they tried to look away. It wasn't just a scandal anymore. It had become an obsession, a riddle woven with terror, betrayal, and a truth too dark to swallow. But what the public saw was only the beginning. Behind closed doors, investigators discovered a second angle, a hidden camera placed in the same room, capturing what the first clip didn't. It wasn't meant for the world. It wasn't meant for the police. It was meant for someone specific. And the moment Lin Shuyan saw the footage, the blood in her veins turned to ice. This angle showed Yulong Meng from the side, sweat dripping from his jawline, hands tied so tightly the rope dug into his skin like hungry teeth. His breathing was ragged, the kind that came from hours of resisting, fighting, refusing. But what stole Shuyan's breath wasn't his suffering. It was the person in the doorway, barely visible, wearing a mask with silver markings that shimmered like a warning. The masked figure never spoke in this angle. They simply watched. Watched as Long Meng was struck. Watched as he was dragged back upright. Watched as he tried to crawl toward the window and freedom. And then came the moment that shattered every piece of Shuyan's soul. The masked figure stepped forward, slowly, deliberately, and placed a hand on Long Meng's shoulder. Not with force. Not with rage. But with a softness that made the scene even more terrifying. A mockery of comfort. A gesture that said, "You will break, but I will break you gently." Long Meng stiffened under that touch, eyes burning with defiance even through the pain. He whispered something, too low for the camera to catch, but whatever he said made the masked figure tilt their head with an eerie calm. Then the first voice, the one from the leaked clip, entered the frame, speaking with icy amusement. "Tell us what we need. Just cooperate. No one has to suffer." But Longming's answer was a hiss, sharp and fearless. "I'd rather die." The masked figure's hand tightened. The lights flickered. The camera shook as though even it feared what would happen next. The world had seen him fall, but the world hadn't seen why. Not the way the masked figure opened the window. Not the way Longmeng was dragged toward it. Not the way he clung to the edge with the last ounce of strength he had left, refusing to surrender even when the shadow behind him whispered, "You should have chosen differently." That sentence. That low, chilling sentence. It repeated in Shuyan's ears like a curse she couldn't escape. Who wanted him to choose? Who wanted him to bend? Who wanted him silent? The leaked video had one final hidden detail that went unnoticed by the public, a small reflection in the window glass, barely visible in normal motion. But when Shuyan slowed the footage down, frame by frame, her heart slammed against her ribs. The reflection showed a symbol, a crescent-shaped insignia painted on the wall behind the masked figure. She recognized it instantly. She had seen it once, years ago, on a script that Longmeng refused to accept despite enormous pressure from powerful investors. A script tied to a company with rumors darker than midnight, whispers of sabotage, manipulation, and actors who disappeared after refusing their offers. Longmeng had told her, quietly one night while tracing circles on her hand, "I won't work with people who trade lives for power. I'd rather disappear first." Now he almost had. And that insignia, that symbol in the reflection, confirmed everything she feared. This wasn't random. This wasn't a robbery. This wasn't an accident. This was revenge. The leaked video had shown the world his suffering, but the hidden details showed her the motive. She watched the footage again, heart pounding harder with every loop. The masked figure. The rope marks. The metallic weapon glinting. The way Longming's fingers slipped from the window as he was shoved. And then, most chilling of all, the final frame, the shadow leaning out the window, watching him fall with a stillness too calculated to be human. Shuyan slammed her laptop shut, breath shaking, tears burning. Because now she knew something devastating. The video wasn't leaked to expose the truth. It was leaked to warn her. To remind her that Longmeng had chosen love over survival. And that because he chose her, the shadows behind that insignia weren't finished. But what they didn't expect, what they couldn't predict, was the fire rising inside her. A fire born from the video's cruelty. A fire born from his bravery. A fire that whispered, "If he fought alone, now he fights with me." And as she stepped into the night with tears drying on her cheeks, she made a vow not even those shadows could extinguish. "You showed the world his pain. Now I'll show the world your face." And somewhere in his hospital bed, though unconscious, Yu Longming's fingers twitched, as if